Hi guys, happy Vlogmas Day. I'm gonna tell you the story time of how I almost got kidnapped. My mom and I have a running joke in our family that if they tried to kidnap me, they would bring me back because she's like, Topanga, you have the mouth that never shuts up because I have ADD. So I will tell this story and I will be as authentic as I can. I do have permission to tell this story because this story does involve a housekeeper that my family had hired to take care of my sick father. When I was 9 years old, my father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, and we ended up moving from Oklahoma to Texas, and so that family could help take care of him. I'm not going to go into any more details other than that, but that's what happened. So when I was in high school, my mom had hired, because she was working full-time and could not sit at home and give my dad the care he needed, so she ended up hiring a housekeeper. I did not like this woman the first time I met her. We did not have a good experience, and it just got worse. I tried to be nice, I tried to make nice, but the last straw for me and my family was the day I almost got kidnapped. I will explain this story, and that day I had been taking a test, standardized testing, and I had gotten done, and they usually don't let somebody leave standardized testing unless there is an absolute emergency. And this person had told the front office that she was picking me up because my mom had been in a serious accident and that I needed to go with her. Well, at first, they could not get a hold of my mom at work, so they, were trying everything to confirm, hey, is this true? Now, I want to put in context that when I graduated high school, because I was going to go to college and because there was no more need for a housekeeper and her position was getting terminated, she was not happy about it and she escalated. And when the 2 nights before this incident happened, my mom had dropped the bombshell on her that she would be fired. It was nothing personal. My mom just didn't see the point anymore since my father was going to be put in a nursing home and she was not going to be needed because there would be no need. She did not take this well, and she tried to beg me not to let my mom fire her. I understood that the economy was bad in 2007, 2008, but I also understood that it had to happen. So after we had informed her that she would be let go, because my mom just didn't see that it was relevant anymore to have her around. She wasn't really doing her job. Things would go missing, and we're not accusing anybody. It's just what happened. It almost got to the point where I told Mom if she did stay and continue to work for us, I would move to Canada, literally. And I'm not being dramatic. I would literally move to Canada and never talk to her again. So after this conversation with this person, I get pulled from my class and the principal tells me, Kayla, there's been an accident. Because this is what the principal was told. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, something has happened to my pops. And I'm like, what's wrong with my dad? That was my first inkling. So I tried to call my mom and she did not answer. But what I was not aware of, that the housekeeper had reported my mom to Adult and Family Services because she was saying that my mom was abusive to me, my mom was hitting me with a broom, and they saw no visible signs of abuse on me, so the police did not hold me. I told them what happened. I told them that we had fired her 2 days ago, so they ended up letting me go home with her. And we were told by the police later, when they did do an investigation, that her plan was to take me out of the state, but something had... I want to backtrack and say I was not feeling good that day. I had been diagnosed with bronchitis, and I had been getting over pneumonia. So also a little tidbit, just to paint a beautiful picture for you of everything that happened. So at that point in time, I get called by the police department. I get called by 2 police officers. And they put me in this conference room. They're talking to me, and they're asking me if my parents or anybody in my family has ever been abusive. I tell them no, because my mom, I'm a spoiled brat. Okay, I'll be totally 100 with you. I am the spoiledest brat you have ever met. When I was younger. I've grown out of it, but let's be honest. I like to drop truth, and I was a spoiled brat. So at this point in time, my mom is being questioned at her job. My mom is a nurse, so at this point in time, my mom could have lost her job. My mom eventually calls the school and tells them not to let the housekeeper go home with me, because she is not even allowed to even be picking me up at the school anymore. I had my car, but that day we had to get my oil changed, and they had to put a new starter in my car, so I did not have my actual car with me, and other things was going on. So I do want to say this, that my aunt was also being called, but keep in mind, my aunt was in Ohio, and she was not readily available to me, but what I did not know at the time was she was already on a plane to where I lived from Ohio to pick me up. So while this is going on, we had found out later on in the story, I was about with the police officers for several hours. They had interrogated me. We almost got into a point where your girl almost got arrested because I have the biggest mouth that will never shut up. And I almost got arrested. So they finally let my mom go, and so she tries to take me out of the school, and I am refusing. I am literally almost punching the housekeeper in the face, because I have been told by several adults not to go with this lady because she has been known to drive the car drunk. She just got a DUI, and she had told my mom about it 3 weeks before the incident happened where I almost got kidnapped. So this is a true story. My mom almost lost her job that day, but we did find out later that her plan was, like I said, to leave the state. But I had tricked her and told her that if I did not have my medicine, because I am severely asthmatic, I would go into an asthma attack, and I didn't want to die. So she decided, okay, we'll go home. I'll let you pack a bag. And she did have a key to our house, but my mom had ended up taking the key away from her. So she was going to go make a copy of my house key and have one available. But what she didn't realize is my mom had already changed the locks, and I didn't give her the right house key. So that did prolong. And so my aunt ends up getting off the plane, and she ends up going, I think she got a rental car, if memory serves me. And she had gotten a rental car, and she had decided, okay, my aunt the whole time she was on the flight had a bad feeling that something was going to happen. So meanwhile, they let me go with her from school, and she's like, from now on, I'm going to be your mother. You're going to call me mom. When we go into the store, and I'm like, you're batch. You know what I'm trying to say without saying it. Crazy, and we're not going to do that. So I refuse, and she ends up like screaming at the top of her lungs at me, and her husband is following behind in a car, making sure that I get to my destination because he is a sheriff's deputy. Okay? In my hometown. So then I turn around and several of my friends start looking for me because my mom arrives at the school with my aunt. And so the school has to explain to my mom why they let her take me off the premises. So several of my friends start almost putting up flyers. They're like printing out flyers is what one friend told me. And they start like going around with their cell phones because we had taken group photos that day. And they like start asking questions. So I had tricked her into telling her I was hungry. So I was like, I want Taco Bell now. So she's like, okay, I'll go. I said, no, I want to sit down and I want to eat at Taco Bell. She's like, okay, I'll do whatever you want. I have a 20. I'll do whatever you want. So what she didn't realize is I had already grabbed my cell phone because she did try to take it away from me. But she had ended up getting one of those fake cell phones that like look real and they light up. I had one because my friend gave it to me and it would shock people when they opened it. And he had got it at the fair and he had given it to me. So she thinks she has my real cell phone. But I end up calling my aunt before we left the school because I asked to go to the bathroom. The police officer, who is the liaison officer, did not let her escort me to the bathroom. She did. So I ended up calling my aunt and I ended up calling my mom. Mind you, my uncle is driving the 12 hours to get to where I am because he cannot fly for medical reasons. So my aunt was the one that was flying down. So my aunt flies down and she tells me, hey, I am on my way. I tell her where we're at and I tell her what the plan is because I overhear my housekeeper talking to her husband and he's like trying to tell her, you cannot take her over state lines. She is not your daughter. She is 18 years old in 2 days. Mind you, I was going to be 18. No, I had already turned 18. And she was like, he's like, you can't take her over state lines because it would be kidnapping. It would be abduction at this point. It wouldn't be kidnapping. It would be abduction. So he's like, you could get in jail for this. You need to take her home now. So what I didn't know is he had been in constant contact with the liaison officer at the high school that I went for 2 months or 2 semesters. And he was like, hey, this is what's going on. This is her actual plan. She's refusing to take her home. She decided to take me to the mall and like tried to buy me all this stuff and I just didn't want it. So I asked her to go home, and in the middle of Taco Bell, I had gotten sick and thrown up all over her. So that also stopped the plan from happening. By the time we arrived at my house, the police were there, sheriff's deputies were there, everybody was there. And, people are there. So my mom comes running out, and my mom explains to the police officer what had happened days prior, and she's telling, them all this stuff. And, she's scared because this lady had mental health issues. She lost her son to sudden infant death syndrome, I think, is what it's called. And she had a really hard time coping with that. And we later found out through their investigation that, so I was supposed to finish out that semester, and I was going to graduate in 2 days. And the next day, she tries to show up at my school. Well, what she didn't realize is my mom had decided to keep me home just so that I would be safe. And because I had done all my standardized testing and because I had passed, they were like, there's really no need for her to be there. We're just having her say goodbye and walk away. So one day, so the following day, my mom gets a call from the school, and they're like, hey, the housekeeper has come and tried to pick her up again. We're not giving any information. So the following day, she tries to call me when I am in study group, in study hall, in the library, and I had this very scared look on my face. And one of my friends, I think his name started with the name something, was like, are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. So the teacher saw the look on my face, and she had been informed of everything that was going on at that time, because it was really affecting me emotionally, and it was just not a good situation for anybody to be in, especially me. So from that time until I graduated, I had to be escorted by a liaison officer, and they were in full uniform with a gun. Like, they could not be in plain clothes everywhere I went, from the bathroom to so everywhere I went, it was like I had my own entourage. So every time my friends would see me, they would start singing, "And I Will Always Love You" from The Bodyguard. And I'm like, great, thank you. So they later dropped the charges against members of my family, and she 2 days later tried to break into our house. I was home alone. The police had to come. They came back out. It was snowing, and it was 30 below, and they had saw footprints in the snow, and they also saw tire tracks on our driveway, and a neighbor had witnessed her car leaving when we had turned on the security system. So when we finally did, I guess what scared her away is she tried to use her key, but the vibration of it, and I just hit the panic button, and it was like, whoa. So after that, she got scared, and I heard her kind of like trip, and they saw where she kind of like, where somebody had fallen in the snow, and they saw the knee impressions. So my mom had explained to them, they saw the police report, and they started thinking, okay, maybe this is not good. Fast forward a couple years later, we started having harassment, but eventually it died down. She went in and out of the pavilion So we have heard she hasn't been able to keep a steady job. She got fired from the agency that we had her hired from, and yeah,